Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Deffinition, and you're now locked into the channel where we break down all the latest movies, new game releases, TV shows and comic books. With the release of the second episode of Star Wars The Mandalorian, it's time to go back to a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away and discuss everything that you need to know about the show. There will be heavy spoilers here, so if you haven't had a chance to watch episode 2 yet and don't want to know what happens, then I highly suggest that you turn off now. If you enjoy the video, then make sure you subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with breakdowns on the show episode by episode. I have spoken. With that out of the way, I just want to give a huge thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into our breakdown of The Mandalorian. Okay, so before we get into the episode itself, there's actually a really interesting development that dropped earlier this week in an interview with Pedro Pascal. Pascal stated that the Mandalorian's real name is Din Djarin, and he mustn't have got the Din warning. That doesn't work at all. From Mickey Mouse, not to spoil his stuff, because I'm guessing he's gonna be mad. Anyway, just thought I'd drop this in the video early on, in case I refer to him as that and people don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, episode 2 picks up in the aftermath of episode 1's big cliffhanger, where Din Djarin came face to face with a baby from the same species as Yoda. This is apparently a dangerous and powerful asset, and trying to take it back to the client isn't an easy task, as we see throughout the episode. Last time I said that I believe that this creature would be extremely force sensitive, which in a time where there are little to no Jedi outside of the Skywalkers would make it an extremely valuable thing to possess. Episode 2, named the child, even though it's 50 years old, picks up immediately where we left off. Mando protecting the baby is clearly going to be the main driving force of the season, and whilst those who may be let down by this, expecting a story about the titular character traversing the galaxy for bounties, I actually think it's the smart move to take to make us care about a character that we know very little about. This episode is very short but sweet, and though it feels like filler on the whole if you were to look at the plot from a top level view, this is still engaging, as once again it absolutely nails the old atmosphere of Star Wars. I'll talk about my general thoughts on it later, but it's still so well presented that I was brought instantly back in from the atmospheric and slow opening stroll. After fighting off some bounty hunters who want the baby more than fans want a good episode 9, Mando is wounded and needs to heal himself. The aforementioned battle shows that Din is an expert in all combat, including melee weapons and blasters, and he makes short work of the creatures that look like they come from the same species as Bossk. He starts off pretty vulnerable, and it's actually refreshing to see a wounded man in these situations. Lil Yoda tries to help him, and say what you want about Star Wars, they always did manage to bring cute elements into it. Yes, I actually like the Ewoks. Mando pushes him off, and there are very minor hints here that there's more to the baby than meets the eye, which I'll get into later in the recap. Now, what this does really well is that it sets the tone for the show going forward. There are lots of themes going on here, but what we're going to be dealing with going ahead is someone who had their life ripped away from them as a child, aka the Mandalorian, trying to bring peace to another young thing that could potentially have theirs taken too. Though this episode isn't that fulfilling on the whole, it definitely is intriguing, and I must admit that the questions that I have about the series are quite a big driving force for me wanting to push ahead as a viewer, even if I found this one a bit hit and miss. Upon arriving back at his ship, he discovers that Jawas have been dismantling it for parts, and before you can say McClunky, he takes out a lot of them in quick fashion with his sniper rifle. This roadblock, like the majority of the episode, feels like a diversion, taking us away from the main driving force of the narrative, but that doesn't mean it's not thrilling. Mando has to set off to stop a sandcrawler from getting away with the rest of his ride, and this is where the episode really picks up. This segment kind of feels like a live action version of the Battlefront games in all the best ways you can imagine, and watching him clamber up the hulking machine reminded me a bit of Luke in The Empire Strikes Back taking on the AT-AT walkers. Is it AT-AT walkers or is it AT-AT? Leave it in the comments below. There's a nice little reference to Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, with Mando almost being taken out by a rock, and we've never actually seen a sandcrawler up this close before, with it being used as a location in itself rather than just a vehicle. Batmaning his way up the side, he's stunned and sent crashing to the ground and left to get back to the Razor's Crest to see if he can get off-world. When it seems like all hope is lost, Mando remembers that he has an ally on this planet, and watching him traverse the silhouette of the sunset reminds you of just how much Disney are really putting into this production. Mando makes it to Cool, who I only recently just discovered was voiced by Nick Nolte, and I must say there's a resemblance there, and they set off to negotiate with the Jawas. We get more Rocky music and also get to see how cute Baby Yoda is. I don't know if they're intentionally aping Mowgli from the Gremlins, but there's some similarities that make you just go, Anyway, after asking for his armor back and almost turning the Jawas into the Star Wars version of the Human Torch, they say that they want the egg and drive him to this planet's big monster. I love how every planet has their own creatures on it, and watching Mando go head to head with the Mudhorn is brilliant, even if it amounts to little more than a set piece. Mando doesn't do well in the fight, and he bombs worse than Solo's box office, which is where we get our fan theory from last time confirmed, with Baby Yoda showing that he is able to use the Force, and it lifts the creature into the air, allowing Din Djarin to kill it, retrieving the egg in the process. Now, we know for definite that the baby is indeed strong in the Force, and if the other creatures of the race that possess these powers, such as Yoda and Yaddle, are anything to go by, then this will be a powerful Jedi should it make it past the age of 700, or whenever it's in high school. Yoda had 4 million midichlorians in him, which is near unprecedented, and that's how he was so powerful, so potentially, even if this baby has half of that, it will still be extremely strong. Neither Mando or alien Nick Nolte understand what the baby did, which to me cements that after Order 66 in Revenge of the Sith, the very mention of Jedi became relegated, with many not even knowing what the Force is. This is why Han Solo seems so unsure of it in A New Hope, and it does seem like since the fall of the Empire that, again, those with mystical powers have faded back into obscurity. Anyway, Mando returns the egg to the Jawas, so they can get some of that sweet crack, egg, and together with Cool they return to the ship and fix it up. Mando offers Cool a position but he refuses, just wanting to go back to having peace in his valley. He has spoken. I'm sorry, that I have spoken joke that I've just rinsed throughout this entire video is terrible. Please don't unsubscribe. Anyway, the episode ends with the Mandalorian flying back to the client to potentially return the child. Now, you don't have to have the prophecy powers of a Jedi to realise that this probably won't happen, and I imagine that when Mando gets back to the bounty holder and he learns of what he intends to do, which is either experiment on the child or use it as a weapon, that Mando will have second thoughts. I mean, look at that baby, how could you hand it over to its death? This will likely put Mando himself in the crosshairs, and he may be exiled from the guild for breaking their rules, and in doing so have to fend for himself. Good thing he's got a baby beside him that can move a freight train with their mind, and I can see these two teaming up to take down all of the scum and villainy that there are in the universe. We do know from the synopsis of next time that Mando will be meeting with the client at least in the episode, and I definitely think that the situation will go bantha poodoo before it gets any better. But what did I think of this episode overall? Well, after a really brilliant season premiere, this feels like a slight step back, and in the end it doesn't amount to much more than filler. At just half an hour as well, it feels like an unnecessary addition that does very little to advance the plot in any major ways. Did I hate it though? Absolutely not. And I love coming back to this world for the second time this week. Again, this feels like the true Star Wars vision that we should be getting, and therefore it's hard to ding the episode for anything more than it was just okay. I think if Disney had have followed the Netflix model and they dropped all the shows in one go, then this wouldn't be getting as panned as it is online, but we have to take it in the form that we got it. With the next episode now a week away, I can't help but feel slightly underwhelmed by it, and it's difficult to really critique this in a negative way when it did absolutely nothing wrong, but also didn't really excel in any way either. If you watch my last breakdown and review of the show, and huge thank you to everyone who checked that out, then you'll know that I gave it a really high score with its ceiling an impressive 9 out of 10. However, because of that, I have to judge this episode to the same score, and due to it not really being as brilliant as that first entry was, it's obviously going to suffer slightly. Again, I have to reiterate that this isn't me slamming the show, and even these last two parts are better than The Last Jedi. However, I have to be honest with myself and you guys watching this and give it a fair score in my opinion. That's why The Mandalorian episode 2 gets a 7 out of 10. Now obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts on the second episode, as well as what your theories are for the future. Make sure you leave them in the comment section below because I'd love to read them, and if you enjoyed this video then please give it a thumbs up, and make sure you stay locked to the channel for breakdowns of every episode as they're released. If you want to watch us discuss more of the series then make sure you check out our full breakdown of the first episode, which will be linked at the end. We go over everything that you need to know about it, all of the Easter eggs and more, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want something else to watch after this. If you want to come chat to me after the video, then make sure you follow me on Twitter at DeffinitionYT, or head over to my Discord server, which will be linked in the description below. We drop videos on there early, so if you want to see stuff before anyone else, then that's the best place to be. It's free to join and we have an awesome community, so hopefully I see you over there very soon. We're also giving away a free copy of the Marvel Phase 3 Part 1 box set on Blu-ray, which contains Civil War, Doctor Strange, Homecoming, Ragnarok and more, and all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts on the Mandalorian in the comments section below. The winner is going to be chosen today on the 15th of November, and the set will be shipped out from then to whoever gets the prize, so best of luck to everyone who takes part. This is a channel for people who are never missing television, so if that's the kind of thing you like, you need to subscribe to Deffinition. Thanks again for taking the time to watch this, you've been the best, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.